Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. Am I my brother's keeper? Yes, I am. To this day.
Nino Brown Boxing, and I'm back in the building. Shout out to the WBC. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. So I want to talk about the WBC mandating Danny Garcia as Errol Spence's mandatory. Now, we all know in Errol Spence's last fight, when he unified with Sean Porter, they both put on a classic. It was definitely the hardest fight of Errol Spence's career. And I can definitely say the same thing for Sean Porter as well. Entertaining, non-stop action, extremely competitive bout by both guys. My hat goes all to them today in 2020. Now, when it comes to this whole Danny Garcia being a mandatory situation, I don't like it because it seems to me, and I feel like I've come to a reasonable conclusion, that the WBC absolutely loves Danny Garcia. See, everyone likes to do this deep dive into resumes, and they'll say, "Well, what has this guy done?" And I'm sick of it because Danny Garcia's the best fights on his resume as a welterweight are the championship fights that he had that I feel like he didn't even deserve. So I want to backtrack because I'm looking at his box rec right now. And prior to Danny Garcia getting the fight with Robert Guerrero, the fight that he had at 147 was against Paulie Malignaggi back in 2015. Then his next fight, he fought Robert Guerrero for the vacant belt. This was the vacant WBC belt. A fight even back then that I felt like was not worthy to fight for the WBC welterweight championship. All right. Then he went and he fought Sammy Vargas, and then he lost his belt to Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman at the time, he's unified. Okay. Danny Garcia, he's back. He's trying to bounce back. He's on the road to redemption. So he fights a punch-drunk Brandon Rios. He stops Brandon Rios in 2018 with a TKO. And then what happens again? Danny Garcia is given the opportunity by the WBC to face Sean Porter for the vacant WBC title. Danny lost a unanimous decision to Sean Porter. So after that, Danny, he got in the ring. You know, he went on a slight hiatus and he got in the ring against Adrian Granados last April 20th, 2019 against Adrian Granados. He stopped Adrian Granados, but at the same time, it's like Adrian Granados is a career 140-pounder, and I understand that Danny came from that weight class, but the combination of Adrian Granados and then Ivan Redkach back in January 2020, earlier this year, that definitely should not be what is needed in order for Danny Garcia to become the mandatory for Errol Spence Jr. To me, it's absolutely ridiculous. I feel like if Danny beat an Ugas, I get it. It would make perfect sense. But the combination of Granados and Ivan Redkach it's just shameful. That's why I've come to the conclusion that the WBC, they just have to love this guy because honestly, man, even a Mikey Garcia fight would have made a lot more sense. So I'm at this point. I feel like the WBC, they have this thing for Danny Garcia. They keep giving him opportunity after opportunity. I mean, I think I just counted, 3 WBC title shots that this man has gotten in the last 5 years. And every single time he defends his belt against anybody that's a B+ level fighter or better, he loses his belt. So yeah, honestly, man, the only thing I could just say, like, this shit is annoying. I don't want this fight to happen. I see guys like Ugas putting in work, having tough fights. Like, I still feel that Ugas, he was robbed against Sean Porter. He was robbed of the knockdown that he had, and that still replays in my mind over and over again. I just don't understand why in the hell the WBC wouldn't order Ugas versus They wouldn't order Ugas versus Danny Garcia, especially considering Danny has lost multiple WBC championship fights, but at the same time, Ugas had a very questionable loss to Sean Porter, the last WBC champion before Earl Spence. So since both of these guys have lost against Sean Porter, and if they're not going to give Sean Porter their rematch against Earl Spence Jr., then why not have these two guys, Ugas and Danny Garcia, face each other in a title eliminator? They like to skip around a lot, and this shit is annoying to me. So I read this article, and Danny Garcia is talking about how optimistic he is for his July date with Earl Spence Jr. We all see what's going on in the world with this corona pandemic, and I definitely don't foresee this fight happening this upcoming summer. But, you know, the WBC is saying that Danny is a mandatory, but then the IBF, we all know how they roll when it comes to their mandatories. Earl Spence hasn't fought since October 2019, and as this pandemic plays out and as the months goes on, it puts Earl Spence at an extended period of time outside of the ring. I'm just curious to see how the Spence camp wants to move forward. I mean, coming off the car accident and then at this point in time, it will be a long layoff, especially if he doesn't get a fight this summer. I want to see what direction they want to go in. I want to see if the WBC and the IBF give Spence the opportunity to have a tune-up fight due to the inactivity from the car accident and now the coronavirus pandemic. So we'll see how everything plays out. But in the meantime, if Earl Spence is afforded the opportunity by those two sanctioning bodies, the WBC and IBF, the opportunity to have a tune-up bout before he faces his mandatories, I feel like the WBC should order a final eliminator, because from my memory, that last fight that Danny had with Ivan Radcatch, I don't remember the WBC wording it as a final eliminator. They should do a final eliminator with Danny and Ugas, and then the winner gets Spence. Simple as that. But that's just my take on the matter. It's Nino Brown Boxing. Shout out to the LDBC, and I'm out.